Hi everyone, welcome to Farm to Fork Hunterdon County Edition. I'm Sandra, Family and Community Health Sciences Educator for Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Hunterdon County, and I am delighted to be here today along with my good colleague Megan Muehlbauer, who is the agricultural agent in Hunterdon County, to bring you this fall series celebrating the wonderful bounty of fall fruits, vegetables, and nuts that are available in our local area. In particular, in Hunterdon County, we have a lovely route, a beautiful route called the 579 Trail, which takes you through areas where there are many farmers markets and farm stands where you can enjoy and purchase the locally available produce. So we invite you to come on a beautiful fall day and take advantage of all that's available in our local area. So if you caught Megan's Facebook Live session on Tuesday, she was out in one of our local apple orchards and introduced us to everything we need to know about how apples are cultivated and also how to pick the perfect apple, which I actually never knew that. That was something that I learned that day by watching Megan. She talked about the different varieties that are available. Today, for our recipe, which what we will be doing together is delicious, healthy, baked cinnamon apple chips. We're going to be using these gorgeous Honey Crisp apples. And the reason why these work great for an apple chip recipe is that they have a really crisp, firm texture. So it's really easy to slice them. And they have an awesome sweet, crisp flavor, sweet tart flavor that really needs nothing added to them. The flavor just speaks for itself. But we have the option of adding some wonderful cinnamon onto our chips, so we'll be doing that today. So before we get into the actual recipe, which is super easy, let's talk a little bit about apple nutrition. So apples, like most fruits, are rich in carbohydrates and also chock full of water. But in addition to carbs and water, apples also contain some really valuable vitamins and minerals and other plant compounds. So number one, apples are a good source of vitamin C and vitamin A. And they also contain potassium, which is a mineral that really helps regulate our blood pressure and our heart health. In addition, a medium-sized apple, and there is not a single medium-sized apple in my bowl. These are super large apples, the way we grow them at Snyder Research Farm in Pittstown. But a 4-ounce apple, which would be actually about half of this apple, contains about 4 grams of total fiber. But within that total fiber, there are soluble fibers, which have been linked to heart health and healthy cholesterol profile, as well as being a great fuel, supportive fuel for your gut microbiota, which there's a lot of research in that area these days, and we're learning that the health of your gut can really influence your overall health. So the soluble fiber in apples, one of them is pectin, and you may be familiar with that term if you do any canning or making jams and jellies. So pectin is a soluble plant fiber, and pectin, there's some research to support that pectin, like all soluble fibers, can promote heart health and gut health, gut microbiota health. So if those aren't good reasons to eat apples, then in my opinion, the best reason is because they are super delicious, and just really that I think of them as the first sign of fall. It's time to go apple picking. It's time to have a hot glass of cider. It's time to make some great snacks from our abundant apples. So what we'll be doing today is taking a beautiful Honeycrisp apple and slicing it very thinly and ending up with these delectable, crisp, fragrant with cinnamon apple chips. And these are a fantastic snack. They're great for adults. They're awesome for kids. They can work well with a piece of cheese, some peanut butter, or a small handful of other nuts. And they're just, when they are baking, because we are using a slow and low baking protocol today, your kitchen will just have the full aroma of apples and cinnamon. So this, again, slow and low, this recipe, the recipe, by the way, will be posted on our Cooperative Extension of Hunterdon County website, and we can try to get the link into our comments after this Facebook Live session. So the protocol is, after we slice them, we're going to lay them out on baking sheets that are lined with parchment paper. We're going to bake them for 1 hour at 225 degrees, so it's a very low oven temperature. Then we just flip them over, bake them for another hour, same temperature, shut off the oven, leave them in there. They don't have to come out right away. They can stay in for another hour. What we're shooting for is when they come out and cool, that we will have that really nice crisp chip texture. Okay, so other than baking sheets, parchment paper, really nice large apples, they work really well. I did make up a mixture of cinnamon and granular, just white table sugar, not because the apples needed to be sweetened, but because it's so much easier to disperse the cinnamon in a nice even topping if it's mixed with a little bit of granular sugar. So no need to use the sugar to sweeten these apples, but it does really make a nice even distribution of cinnamon on the chips. So how to get those nice slices? Well, the recipe said, one of the model recipes says, well, if you have a steady hand, you can slice them that thin with a knife. That may be possible for some people, but for me, that wasn't going to happen. So I highly recommend using a mandolin slicer. So let's talk a little bit about how this works. So I have a pretty large one here. It comes with all kinds of different blades, but for these chips, all we need is the basic blade. And we do have to be careful when using a mandolin slicer or any cutting tool, because this blade is super sharp and we do not want our fingers going anywhere near that. So most slicers come with some kind of a guide that you will put your food hanging on with these prongs instead of your fingers, and you will slice away with your fingers, perfectly safe, and these really very nice thin slices coming out on the bottom and dropping down onto our parchment paper. Now, my mandolin slicer comes with many adjustable thicknesses for vegetables. I'm sure if you have one, yours does too. And last week when I was making up a test recipe, I played around with different thicknesses to see what worked best for apple chips. And I tried 1/8 inch and 1/16 inch. And hands down, the 1/16 inch ended up created the really nice thin slices that baked up crisp. Because we want them to be dry enough to store in an airtight container at room temperature and not have to refrigerate if there's a lot of leftover water in them. If you happen to hand slice and your slices come out a little thicker, it's not a huge issue. They may not crisp up quite as much, but they kind of might end up being like a little bit of a fruit leather, a dry fruit leather, and you can always refrigerate those. So not to worry, but we were shooting for something crisp, and 1/16 inch on my mandolin really was the perfect setting. So now how to slice the apple? Well, it really doesn't matter, and you don't need to core it, because when the mandolin makes its slices, if there are any seeds or little bits of core, we're just going to cut around them and remove them with a paring knife. And not worry about it, because what we want is we don't really want big holes in our chips. We want most of the chips to be as intact as possible and not waste any of that great apple flesh. So what I will do is demonstrate. It's really easy. I have tried cutting the apple both ways, cutting it down like this, cutting it across its middle. By the time these chips will bake and dry up and curl, it almost doesn't matter which way you do it. So I found that the apple, if I cut the apple in the traditional way, it's easier to grab it, because these are really large apples. It's easier to grab it with my guide. So I'll just slice it up that way, and then I'll show you what the slices look like. We will sprinkle them with my cinnamon sugar mix very lightly, and then I will show you the finished product again. Okay, so here we go. Really easy. Of course, I washed and dried the apples. I'm just going to cut this one in half. Okay. Look how beautiful, look at that beautiful cream colored flesh inside. It's just beautiful. And I learned Megan's term, the red color part is the blush, the base color is the background color. I'm going to do a new term, so I'll be using that. Okay, so I'm going to take 1/2. Now, when you first start, it may be a little bit difficult to get this apple to kind of hang on there, but you just place it, press down. And once you get it going, it works great. So my slices are falling underneath beautifully. Okay. Let's see what we have. Perfectly thin apple slices. So you see, there's no core on most of these. I just have a couple seeds, actually just on 2 pieces. So what I'm going to do, of course, I would finish that whole apple, and I would fill, while I'm mentioning this, you want to fill as many trays as you can fit in your oven, because you want a big supply of these chips, because I think they're going to go really fast in your household. So I just cut out, really easy. Got rid of that seed. Here's one's got a couple seeds. I'll just scrape them off. When they dry up, you really can't distinguish the center of the apple from any other part of the apple. Okay, so here we go. So that was easy. I didn't have to do any coring. You want to space them evenly on your baking sheet so that the air and heat can flow all around them. Of course, I would fill this baking sheet, which I will probably finish all this after I'm done and make another batch for myself. So there we go. Now, I'm just going to sprinkle these lightly with my cinnamon sugar mix. You don't need to add the sugar if you don't want to, but I have to say it is a lot easier to get the cinnamon evenly dispersed. And I tried using brown sugar. Brown sugar clumped on the apples. Maybe pourable brown sugar would have worked better, but I didn't have any of that. So I ended up just using white table sugar. You could use maybe sugar in the raw that has like the larger crystals. All you really want is even and light coverage. So these would be ready to go right in the oven. A couple of full trays. Remember, 1 hour. Then we're just going to flip them. You can sprinkle cinnamon on the other side too, so they're evenly coated. Another hour, 225, remember, is the temperature that we have our oven set to. Shut the oven off. Let them stay in there. Bring them out after about an hour so you don't forget them in there. Just let the rack cool, and you will end up with these beautiful, crisp apple chips. So again, they are so crunchy. And when they are cooking, your entire kitchen will be smelling like heavenly apple spice. So this is a great recipe for a cold or chilly fall day when you can warm up your kitchen a little bit by having the oven on that low temperature. You can enjoy the aroma of baking apple spice, and then you can enjoy your apple chips for several days, or I'm at about a week's mark with this. I just kept them in a airtight Tupperware type container. I had to resist the temptation to eat them before I did this video with you, but they'd be great with peanut butter, some handful of nuts. They are a great snack to take hiking, and kids will love them. They have a great texture and just a great flavor. So give them a try if you haven't thought about making baked apple chips. You'll get all the nutrition of these wonderful apples in a delicious, crunchy snack. So thank you for joining me today, and be on the lookout for our next program, which will feature pumpkins. That's coming up the week of Halloween, so be on the lookout. Please like our page if you haven't done that, and you will get updates on our series. I will be featuring an awesome Southwestern pumpkin hummus. So I hope you would want to tune in and join me in preparing that. So thanks again. Get out and enjoy the great fall weather. Come visit us at the Hunterdon County 579 Trail. And thanks again. See you next time.